All right, so we already went over the objective for day one. We went over the vocab, opacity, depth, foreground, middle ground, and background. And I said that backwards. And we have the do now. Make sure you have those images, like you're looking at the image and you circled all the areas that you see the lightest area. So I'm not gonna tell you what that is, but it's kind of obvious. Just get that done. And then make sure that you answer the questions about my video that I talk about opaque color. That's a pretty simple video, very understandable. So get those questions done. Exit ticket. If you listen to the whole video and you listen to everything, you'll be able to fill this exit ticket out by the end. And then the history of John Duval. So I'm just gonna go over this now. As you can see, his paintings, when you're looking at them, and I'm gonna put them up on the screen so you can see it larger right now, because if you have black and white photocopies, then you can't see it as well. So I'm gonna have them up. So whether it's a busy cityscape or a sunset meadow, John Duval's gorgeous watercolor landscapes all seem to have a little extra shimmer and shine to them. Perhaps that's because he wasn't always a painter. This Jersey City, so he's a local artist originally trained in figure drawing at Rutgers University, and in fact his painting career only began after a trip to Florence, Italy, where he studied the local artists for several months. Today, he's devoted his focus entirely to watercolors and the Sargent, Wraith, and Turner as inspirations. So you can see a lot of depth and you can see a lot of transparency and definitely some foreground, middle ground, and background on his paintings. So I am going to stop right here. The painting's gonna be up and I'm gonna ask you where you see the lightest area, where you see how do you know it's the foreground, middle ground, and background, and pause. And these are for some points and dojo points. All right, and we're back. So that's the front page. You know, if you need it in Spanish, that's always on the other side of the first page. I put this in here, this atmospheric perspective, because I want you to be able to go back to it, because here it says far, near, here, middle. So you're going to be able to see, we're making mountains today in our painting. So while we're doing that, if you need a reference and you have to go back and you have to fix your painting, you'll have this to reference. So we already went over atmospheric perspective previously, so I just put this sheet in here. Basic watercolor techniques. So basic watercolor techniques, this is in color, yours will be in black and white. And I'm gonna have a few around the room in color in each row so that you'll be able to reference that also. So you can see it's wet, dry, 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 wet, and wet, wet. Today we're going to be using wet, wet an awful lot, okay? And then the dry, dry. So because we're going back from foreground, middle ground, and background, transparent and opaque. This would be opaque, this would be transparent. All right, make sure in the end, you need to get your progress peer review worksheet. So you're gonna work with the peer next to you. They're going to look at your work and you're gonna look at theirs and you're gonna fill it out together. So you're each gonna fill each other's out. Make sure you have your name and the class. The class is just the time of the class. So now we're moving on. And one more thing is you have the objective breakdown, your 3 goals. So we read that in the beginning. You have those as cards so you can see and you can check back if you reach those 3 goals. I'm gonna have student leaders going around to make sure that you reach those 3 goals and question you on why you reach them and how you reach them. So you have that card right there for your knowledge, right? Guys, so the best way to explain opacity is to look at it and to see it. So opacity is used to describe how much light can pass through an object, ranging from transparency through translucent to opaque. Opaque is solid color. So here, right here is opaque and it's solid color. This is transparency, and how we know this is transparency is when I click on this object and I go over the solid color, I can see the solid color through the transparent object. So that is the way you would explain transparency, opaque, and how opacity works. So this opacity, when you've used some of these digital programs, that's the best way to describe it, is that this is not at 100%. This, if you were in a digital program like Photopea, you would change this to 50% and you could see through the object. So that is the best way to explain transparency and opaque. And opaque is full, it is completely solid color. So that's how we're going to explain that. That's on your fact sheet, so that's one of the answers to one of the questions, so make sure you mark that down. All right, and I will go into the next part. All right, so this is the practice. In the lesson, it called for a little practice and some sketches, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna practice with the trees, because the rest of the lesson is pretty straightforward. But the trees, I always practice first because it's a way of painting, and it's a certain shape that you're using. So we're gonna use triangles. So I'm gonna cross hatch, and you can see that's a triangle. So everybody put that on their paper. All right. And give me a thumbs up just to make sure that you're paying attention and understanding. All right. So now we're going to cross hatch and we're going to go down. And as we go down, we get larger. You can see that getting larger. Now this isn't the perfect tree, but I want you to see the shape that we're using. So you keep on using the tops of those triangles. So it's just the top of the triangle, but you're kind of building a triangle. So I'm going to put the triangle shape here. Don't do that. I just want you to see it. So I'm showing you the shape, and I'm going to go down that triangle, cross hatching. Now we did cross hatching previously, and you can start painting all the way down, making your trees using triangles, but you're filling them in with cross hatching. And as you can see, it turns into a tree. More of a pine tree. I'm going to do another one on the other side. So I'm going to start out with the top of the triangle, and I'm going to go down and fill that out. And I'm using cross hatching. So go ahead and start that. This is just practice. And keep on going until you reach the bottom. All right, and then you have your trees. So give me a thumbs up when you're ready. You know, first row gets 3 points, second is 2 points, and third is 1 point. Now remember, the whole time, for concentration, for on task, and for doing your work and meeting the expectations, you are getting dojos for that. So I will be walking around giving dojos. All right, and that's that. All right, so I'm super excited. Today, we are going to do a landscape, and we're gonna have a background, middle ground, and a foreground. You are going to show that you can make your painting with depth. Depth meaning that we have some transparencies here and we have some opaque colors. So we have the transparencies within the tree area, and the opaque color is over here that's nice and solid. We have a gradient going from the horizon line up and the horizon line down. So I'm going to show you how to complete that, okay? So I'm going to show you each area. First, we're going to start out with our horizon line. So just like we did with 1 point perspective, you're going to use a pencil, and you're just going to make a line straight down the middle. So you can't see that very well. So what I'm going to do is, instead of using Sharpie, I'm just going to take my brush and I'm just going to make that line straight down the middle. You're not going to do that. you're just gonna leave yours alone. But you can see my horizon line. So when everybody has that horizon line, just to make sure you're on point, just give me a thumbs up. First table gets 3 points, second table gets 2 points, and the third gets 1 unless there's a tie. And we're back. Awesome. So you have that horizon line. I'm going to start out with blue for the sky. You can change it up as you wish. I'm going to use this blue right here just to start out. It's darker on top. So the less water you use, the darker the paint is, of course. So I am using not that much water, and I'm just making a dark top. So this is all dark on the top. This is how we're making our gradient. So I continue to add paint, and I can add water straight to the paper. So I'm adding paint right now just to have a darker sky up top, and it's gonna get lighter as we go down. So start adding that paint, that dark blue up top. Then I'm gonna start using the lighter blue over here on the palette. You're gonna have a lot of independent time. Right now, it's not going to be independent until we get to the fact where we have all this laid out. Then your independent part is going to be you adding things to the areas. So I'm going to add more water all the way down. You see how I'm getting that light area? So we're doing that. We're getting some gradient right here. So you keep working on your gradient. You're going to have the darker blue up top, and you're adding water to the paper down here. I'm going to use that light blue like within here. And so you're not going to have it all dark blue the whole way down. You're going to have a lighter, almost white area down here. So you really are, part of your grade is how you're doing that gradient, that light area. So this would be more opaque color, and then this would be more transparent. All right, so give me a thumbs up when that is done. I want you to take another minute right here just to bring that color down. And pause. All right, we're back. So we have that. I might even add a little bit more dark blue up here, so it's a little darker for my gradients. So you can see that even if you see the brush strokes, it looks kind of sky-like, so it doesn't matter. You don't have to have it perfect. This is supposed to look like a painting. So there we go. All right. Now we're going to move down to the mountainy area. So right now you can see that this is very transparent. Okay, these mountains in the back. So we're going to use a lot of water to do this. And then we're going to use the brown. But we're going to, you can use a brush that's medium size or a small brush, whichever one you feel comfortable. So I want you to watch me right here and then do. So I'll let you know when. So I'm going to dip into this brown area right here. And what happens is I'm going to start making my mountains go up and down, up and down. Now a mountain, it doesn't matter how you make it because they're all from nature. So nothing in nature has a perfect line or has to be in a perfect way. So you can see how I just did a zigzag right there. So I'm going to do that, and you can see it's lighter. So what I'm doing is I'm using more water. So I got that brown, and now it's very transparent. You always have your napkin right here that you can blot it like that if you feel like you got too much water. So I'm making these mountains very transparent, and I'm touching the horizon line. So you go ahead and try that. Give me a thumbs up when you're done. And it's going to take you about 2 minutes. 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and go. And we're back. So now we have these mountains in the background. They're very transparent. They're kind of almost the same tone as the sky, right? Now we're going on that third. This is our third mountain. Actually, this is our second mountain. What am I saying? So we're going on the second layer right here. And we understand layers just from our digital programs working in layers. It's a nice way of looking at it. So now we have another layer that we're going to put as the mountain in the middle right here, during our middle ground right here with the mountains. So how we're going to do that is we're going to use less water than we did previously. And I'm going to use a smaller brush so that I can get some detail in there, because the more detail, the more you see, the more in the foreground it is. So I'm just going into my brown, not going like this. I'm actually just doing it lightly, okay? We're not going to dig into our paints, but I'm getting a lot of brown to fill my brush. And now I'm going to not put the mountains in the same spot. I'm going to overlap them so that they're in this open area. That's my first mountain. So as you can see, I'm just going there. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. Mountains are from nature, so there's no perfect line. So you can see that I just use that. And I did that line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check for understanding right now. I'm going to walk around the room and I'm going to make sure that everyone's okay and they have done that darker mountain. I'm also going to ask that you fill in that mountain while I'm walking around. If you want to go to the next step, fill in this mountain using the brown. While I'm walking around. And we're back. So everyone, give me a thumbs up if you have that done. And we're back. So the next part is the green mountain. That's another layer, okay? So we're using this green right here, and it's a greenish brown. So you're gonna be switching from brown to green, depending on the detail, because here's some brown above the mountains, okay? So I'm gonna stick to the same brush, but now I'm going to go to my darker green in my palette. And I'm going to make those marks again with the mountains. So I'm going to make a mountain here. And I'm going to go in between this mountain. So nice that we can see it. I'm doing my lines. So you may start making your lines of your third mountain. So I'm going to walk around, check for understanding. And I'm going to fill mine in. We're going to pause here and I'm going to let you fill your mountains in. It's probably going to be around 3 minutes. And we're back. So this is going to be very opaque because it's closer to the foreground, so it has more detail. So I'm going to use some brown also and do the tops of the mountains so I get some of that detail. And I'm just adding a little detail to the tops of the mountains in brown. So it's wet, so it's already making a nice opaque kind of texture. It's melding together. I have those mountains. All right. Just gonna check to see that everyone's okay. And we've added that brown. And we're back. All right, so we need to get the green, but now this is a gradient. So we need to get the green from here down to here. But we're going to use more water down here because it's going to be transparent. And it's going to go, we're going to go from opaque to transparent. So I'm going to stop right here. Can anyone tell me what I mean by opaque up here and transparent down here? And this is new, but it's not as new when you think about it because we did transparent in our digital programs and we had percentages that we used for color. Now we're doing the same thing, but we're doing it by hand and we're doing it with a brush and paint. So anyone for 5 points? All right, and we're back. Great. So now we're gonna add water and paint. So I'm gonna use my bigger brush for that because oh, sorry about my dogs. Doing it on the weekend, guys, doing it on the weekend. So I am going to have the darker green on top. All right, so took a little intermission there. Dogs would stop barking. But now I'm gonna add the green. It's more, of course, opaque up here. And then we're gonna add water, just water, straight down. That way you can get that gradient. So as you can see, the paint, it turns into a gradient itself when you're adding the water. So if you put the water down, all the way down to the bottom, you can add some more green on the top. And it's lighter going down. So you have that nice gradient. So I still have some green on the bottom, but now I have a nice area to work with to add my trees. All right, so I'm gonna give you like 3 minutes for that. All right, give me a thumbs up when the tables, each row is done. That was again my dog. All right. So our next part is we're gonna add those trees that we practiced with. So we're gonna use our triangle effect and we're gonna use our cross hatching. Cross hatching is something that we did previously. If you don't remember it, that's okay, because I will go over it again. And we are gonna use the black, actually. And we're gonna start with the first tree right here on the mountain. This one will be forward. So since it's in the foreground, it's gonna be detailed. So we are adding those triangles all the way down and cross hatching. As you can see me moving my brush all the way down, I have my smaller brush. You can start because we already practiced with our trees, and you can add trees wherever you would like to add trees. You don't have to add them exactly where I add them, but the only thing is I'm gonna practice with you for the first two because I'm gonna make sure that you know how to make it lighter and darker, so more transparent or they're opaque. So this is a tree that would have more detail. I'm using a lot less water for this tree, and it goes all the way down. And now if I'm going to do a little tree in the background, I'm going to add that tree, tiny little tree, but then I'm going to take, see how it's like watery? I'm going to take my napkin and blot it, and therefore it's more transparent. It's less. It's like light. So you can have a lot of light little trees in the back because that's the background. This is actually the middle ground, but it's still going to be lighter because they're farther away. And then you're going to have those darker trees in the front. So I'm going to let you go for it. Make sure that your trees in the background, you blot them, make them lighter, and then the trees in the foreground are going to be darker. So you're going to keep on adding trees until you've filled the area. The other little thing that we're doing is we're having little grass area. So I'm going to do that before I let you start. The grass area, all you do is go like this with your brush. And they kind of pop up wherever there's a tree. So if I add a tree right here, of course it's going to be darker because it's in the foreground. And you can start painting. You're just listening to me right now because I don't want you to, if you know what you're doing, But then right here, I would add that grass. So boom, 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 boom on the bottom. All right, so I'm gonna keep on filling my trees. If you need to watch me and follow me, that's fine. If you wanna go forward, that's also fine. The independent part of this is you can add some orange to the sky if you want. You can make your mountains have more detail. And then you can decorate any of the trees if you wish. You can also add some green to the trees. I want you to make this your own. I gave you the kind of beginning of your painting, and now the independent part is all the things that you're gonna add to the structure. So you have the structure, but now I want you to take it and work independently and add your own elements. And if you wanna add on anything to this, you can. Say you wanna add a little sleigh, you can. You can add, I don't care if you wanna add a snowman. It's up to you. You make this painting your own. So I'm gonna let you go forward with this, and I want you to have fun. So have fun.